Welcome to NightLore. Tonight's story isn't about monsters in the woods or creatures in the dark. It's about something closer, something that follows you when you move, something that remembers your name even after the walls are gone. This is the story of Daniel and the woman who wouldn't stop walking above him. So turn down the lights, make sure you're alone, and let's begin. I never used to believe in ghosts, but after what happened in my old apartment, I can't even sleep without turning on the hallway light. It started 3 months after I moved into that building, a gray crumbling structure on the edge of town that always smelled faintly of wet plaster. Rent was cheap, neighbors were quiet, and for someone trying to start over, it was perfect. At least that's what I thought. My place was on the 3rd floor. The landlord told me no one lived above me, just an empty unit sealed off after a small fire years ago. I didn't think much of it until one night around 2 a.m. when I heard footsteps. They weren't random creaks of the old wood. They were steady, deliberate, back and forth, directly above my bed. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, holding my breath. The sound went on for almost 10 minutes before it stopped. When I told the landlord the next morning, he laughed it off. "Pipes," he said. "The building makes noise when it's cold. But I've lived in old buildings before. Pipes don't sound like bare feet pacing the floor." The nights that followed were worse. Sometimes I'd hear dragging, like someone was pulling furniture. Other times, muffled crying. Once I thought I heard my name. A woman's voice, whispering it so softly that I wasn't sure it wasn't in my head. Daniel. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom after that. I'd pass out on the couch, TV on for comfort. But even there, I could hear the faint thud of footsteps overhead. One morning, I came home early from a night shift and saw something strange, black soot trailing down from the ceiling like smoke stains bleeding through fresh paint. I called the landlord again. This time he didn't answer. I climbed the stairs to the top floor myself. The door to the vacant unit was chained shut, but the padlock was old, brittle. I hit it with a wrench until it cracked. The smell inside hit me like a wave-burnt fabric, old mold, and something faintly metallic. The walls were scorched, yes, but only halfway up, as if the fire had stopped mid-breath. And there, in the center of the room, was a small wooden chair, perfectly clean, unburned. There was something on it, a folded note. It said, "Please stop walking around at night. You're keeping me awake." I left the building that day and never went back for my deposit. But sometimes on sleepless nights, I swear I can still hear her walking right above me, even now. And I don't live in an apartment anymore. I moved into my sister's house after that. A small 1-story home on the outskirts of town, quiet, safe, normal. At least it should have been. For a few weeks, things felt fine. I convinced myself that everything back at the old apartment was just stress hallucinations from too many night shifts and too little sleep. But one night, about a month after I left, I heard it again. Not footsteps this time. A voice. It came from the wall behind my bed, soft at first, almost blending with the hum of the refrigerator down the hall. Then clearer, closer. "Daniel, why did you leave me?" I sat up so fast, I nearly fell off the bed. It wasn't a dream, I knew that much. The sound had a strange hollow quality, like someone whispering through a vent. I pressed my ear to the wall, heart hammering. Nothing. Silence. But when I turned off the light, The whisper came again, quieter, almost pleading. "It's so cold here." The next morning, I told my sister. She frowned, said the walls were thick, that maybe I heard a neighbor through the pipes. Except there were no neighbors. Her house was detached, no shared walls, no upper floor. Just open space and fields around us. That night, I left my phone recording on the nightstand. When I checked the audio the next morning, I expected static. Instead, I heard it again, faint but clear, buried under white noise. A woman's voice. "Come back upstairs, please." The words sent a chill crawling up my spine. Upstairs. But this house had no upstairs. I tried to find the old landlord. His number was disconnected, the building's website gone. When I drove by to see it for myself, I found something that froze me in place. The apartment block was gone. All of it. In its place was an empty lot surrounded by fencing and a faded notice board that said, "Demolition completed, August 12th. But I moved out in late September." That couldn't be right. When I got home that night, my phone was already recording. I hadn't turned it on. The file name was a timestamp, 12:03 a.m. I pressed play hands, shaking. It was me breathing in my sleep. Then faintly a whisper closer than ever. "You can move, but I'm still above you." The recording cut off there, and that's when I realized the sound wasn't coming from above anymore. It was coming from inside the room. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after that recording. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard faint movement somewhere in the house, soft breathing, the creak of floorboards, shifting under a weight that wasn't mine. I tried everything, sleeping pills, earplugs, even blasting white noise through my headphones. Nothing helped. The house had grown alive somehow. Or maybe it was me who'd brought something alive into it. By the 4th night, I was desperate enough to call a priest. He listened patiently, eyes narrowing, when I mentioned the burned apartment. When I finished, he only asked one question. "Did you ever take anything from that place?" I told him no, of course not. I wasn't stupid. But that night, when I opened my suitcase, the one I'd packed the day I ran out, I found something that made my blood run cold. A small scrap of burned paper tucked between my clothes. The handwriting was the same as before. "Thank you for visiting. Don't leave me alone again." I dropped it like it was poison. The edges were blackened, but the center was untouched, like fire had refused to consume the words. The next morning, my sister left for work, and I was alone in the house. That's when I heard the first knock. 3 slow taps against the ceiling. There was no attic, no second floor, just plaster and roof. The knocking came again, louder, this time impatient. I grabbed a chair, climbed up, and pressed my ear against the ceiling. For a moment, there was only silence. Then tap, 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 followed by a faint whisper. "You came back." I fell off the chair. That night, I couldn't bring myself to stay inside. I sat in my car with the windows up, staring at the dark outline of the house. From where I parked, I could see my bedroom window dimly lit by the street lamp. And then, around 2:17 a.m., the light flickered on. Someone was standing in the window. A silhouette head, tilted slightly, unmoving. I froze. My phone buzzed in my hand. An unknown number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. "Hello?" No response. Just faint static. And then stopped watching me from the car. "Daniel." I dropped the phone. When I looked back at the window, the light was off. The figure was gone. I don't remember driving away. I only remember waking up the next morning on the side of the road, my phone dead, my head pounding. When I got back home, everything was normal again. Too normal. The chairs were where I left them. My suitcase was gone. The note was gone. Even the scorch marks on the ceiling had vanished. For a few moments, I wondered if I'd finally lost my mind, if none of it had ever been real. But as I sat there, trying to convince myself I was safe, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. A single black footprint on the carpet, leading from my bedroom to the ceiling. I started recording everything after that. Every night I'd leave my phone on the dresser, camera pointed at the ceiling. It made me feel safer, like I was in control, like I could finally see what was haunting me. For 3 nights, the recordings showed nothing. Just me, tossing in bed shadows, shifting with the headlights from outside. But on the 4th night, the video froze at 3:09 a.m., just for a second. When it resumed, I wasn't alone in the frame anymore. Someone was standing beside the bed. A woman head, tilted down, hair matted, and black, her face pale and smeared with soot. Her fingers hung unnaturally long, almost touching the floor. She wasn't moving. She was just there, staring down at me while I slept. I must have watched that clip 50 times, trying to convince myself it was a glitch, a trick of the light. But then I noticed something I hadn't seen before: the faint outline of burn marks on her arms, like someone had tried to pull her out of a fire. That morning, I drove to the local records office. It took some convincing, but a clerk eventually found the file for my old apartment building. Fire on the 4th floor, 2013, it said. 1 casualty, female, name Evelyn Morrow. She'd been trapped in her unit when the ceiling collapsed. Unit 4A, the one directly above mine. I don't know what made me go back there. Curiosity, guilt, maybe something deeper. The demolition site was fenced off, but part of the barrier had collapsed from the rain. The ground was littered with pieces of concrete and scorched wood. In the middle of the lot, I found a section of burned flooring still intact. Old hardwood, warped from heat. Right there, carved into the wood, were words he heard me walking. He heard me die. I stumbled backward, my chest tightening. That's when I saw something that stopped me cold. A small wooden chair, half buried in the dirt. The same chair from before. I ran. I didn't care where. I just drove until the road disappeared into trees. When I finally stopped, the sun was setting, and my phone buzzed in the passenger seat. A notification. New video saved 3:09 a.m. I hadn't recorded anything. My phone had been dead for hours. When I opened the file, the screen stayed black for a moment. Then a faint sound breathing, slow, ragged. A woman's voice whispered so close, it felt like it came from the speaker itself. You left me under the floor. Then came a sound I'll never forget. Wood splintering, boards breaking, like someone was climbing up through them. The video ended with a frame of my ceiling, the same ceiling in my sister's house, cracking open from the inside. That was 3 days ago. Now every time I walk into a room, I can hear her steps above me. Soft, careful, patient. No matter where I go, she's there. Because maybe it was never about the apartment. Maybe it was about me. And tonight, as I write this, I can hear her again. Right above the light. Right where the ceiling creaks when she leans down to listen. Daniel, she whispers. There's room for 2. I've stopped running. You can only drive so far before the road runs out, before you realize whatever's following you isn't outside the car, it's with you. The last few nights have blurred together. I barely eat, barely sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see her standing over me, motionless patient, the corners of her mouth twitching like she's trying to remember how to smile. I moved my mattress into the living room. There's nowhere left to go. But I still keep recording. I need someone to know what happened, even if I don't make it through tonight. The camera's been running for hours. I can hear the hum of the street lamp through the window. Outside, everything looks so still, it feels fake, like the world's holding its breath waiting. I whisper to myself, trying to stay awake. You can't hurt me. You're not real. The words sound weak even to me. Then the light flickers, once, twice, and I hear it again. That familiar deliberate sound. Footsteps. Not above anymore, not behind the walls, but inside the house. Slow, soft wet against the wooden floor. Step, step, step. I keep the camera pointed toward the hallway. The air feels heavy, like I'm breathing through water. Something moves in the darkness, just a shadow at first. Then the faint shape of a hand curling around the corner of the wall. It's black with soot. I whisper her name before I even realize I'm saying it. Evelyn. The footsteps stop. The shadow freezes. And then the voice, soft, broken, but closer than ever. You remembered. I can see her now, standing just at the edge of the light eyes, like empty wells. Her face isn't angry. It's sad. She takes a step forward, and I see the skin on her arms peel away ash, falling to the floor with each movement. It wasn't you who left me, she says. It was the fire. You tried to help me, didn't you? My throat tightens. I can't speak, because I don't remember trying to save anyone. I remember running. The night of the fire, the panic, the screams above me, the kilt I buried so deep I forgot. She moves closer, the air around her flickering with heat. You left me there, Daniel. The walls begin to blacken, smoke rising from the seams. The smell of burning fills the room. My camera crackles, pixels melting across the screen. But it's okay, she whispers. I kept a place for you. I stumble backward, knocking over the chair, the same old wooden chair. It's sitting in the middle of the room now, unburned, waiting. The fire climbs the walls, but I can't feel the heat. Everything's turning dark, the smoke swallowing the edges of the light. She reaches out her hand. Her fingers are shaking. Sit with me, Daniel. The camera tilts as I step forward. My voice trembles. I'm sorry. Her smile returns, cracked, blackened, but real. I know. The recording cuts out there. No sound, no fire, just static. But if you turn the volume up, all the way up, you can hear it faintly under the noise. 2 sets of breathing, in perfect sync, and every few seconds, the faint creak of a chair. Back and forth, back and forth. You've just heard The Woman Above. A story that reminds us some places never truly burn away. If you ever hear footsteps where there shouldn't be any, don't look up. Thank you for listening to NightLore. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more tales whispered from the dark. And remember, the next sound you hear might not be in your head.